and I'm ready to get started. All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Anahita Panahi. I am the refugee. I ask that whoever is not speaking, please mute themselves so we don't have any background noise or distractions. Thank you so much. My name is Anahita Panahi. I am the refugee campaign manager with the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, CHURLA, based out of Los Angeles, and in partnership with We Are All America. I'm really excited to co-host this really important session with my colleagues, Kosar and Dauda, which we'll get to introduce in a couple minutes. Today's session for our Refugee Council USA Refugee Advocacy Days is Refugee Organizing and Leadership Development. This is really for building the foundation of grassroots organizing through community building and power. So we're really looking forward to, discussing what community organizing means and how we can work on leadership development within our communities. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about RCUSA Advocacy Days, if it is your first time. RCUSA Council hosts their virtual annual Refugee Advocacy Days that are being hosted this year between May 9th and May 13th. This is an opportunity for community members, advocates, faith leaders, resettlement staff, allies, and others to show their support for pro-refugee legislation with members of Congress at the federal level. And so participants will have the opportunity to meet virtually with the members of Congress, and also will have an opportunity to attend special trainings to help build and expand their advocacy tool belt. And so this is one of those trainings that we are talking about. And so today's workshop will be focused on Organizing 101 and Leadership Development Workshop. Today's session will cover the basics of community organizing, ways of being an effective leader in your community, advocating for specific social justice causes, how power dynamics play a role in your community, the act of community service, so models of social change, and power dynamics. This workshop is designed for participants who are interested in learning more on how to organize and lead their own communities. And again, some housekeeping items. If you are not speaking, please go ahead and mute yourself.
The last emperor.
All right, thank you. Next slide. So just a little bit of background about the We Are All America Opportunity for All table, which is in partnership with the RCUSA Advocacy Days. Opportunity for All is a national leadership table that is housed out of We Are All America and led by diverse refugees and immigrants. Opportunity for All is designed to ensure the representation and inclusivity of those with lived experiences, to ensure that their experiences are being centered, and to shift the narrative of refugees and immigrants to one that reflects their contributions and lived experiences. Next slide. Another partner as part of the RCUSA Advocacy Days is Refugee Congress. Refugee Congress is a national nonpartisan organization built and led by former refugees, asylum seekers, and other vulnerable migrants to promote the well-being and dignity of all vulnerable migrants. Next slide, please. All right, folks, the exciting part. So let's go ahead and get started. I would like to pass the torch to my colleagues, Dauda and Kosar, to share about themselves and their organizations before we go ahead and get started with our workshop today. Dauda?
Thank you so much, Anahita, and thanks to the Refugee Council USA for hosting this workshop. And I'm excited to have each and every one of you here today. My name is Dauda Sise, and I'm the National Network Director for African Communities Together, and also a board member, vice chair for the board of directors of Refugee Congress. And Refugee Congress, as we all know, is a national advocacy organization that is center refugee movement. And whereas we want to make sure that all refugees are at the table, represented at the table where decisions are made. And basically that is the short about Refugee Congress. We empower refugees in order to get to that point. With my new role as well with the African Communities Together, it's a role that where I'm bringing African immigrants in a national space where we can advocate for federal immigration policies that are of interest to the African communities. And we've seen within the United States, there is not, we have so many African organizations, but there is none that is nationally centered for that issue like other nationalities as well. So, but this time around, we want to make sure that is centered in the United States, and in order to build a collective power and have a collective win. So thank you all, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Dauda. I'll pass it over to Kosar.
Hey y'all, thank you so much, Anahita and Dauda. Thank you all so much for joining this call, and I'm very excited to talk to you all. My name is Kosar. I am a second-generation Somali refugee, and I'm the multicultural organizer at the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. We're a statewide immigrant and refugee-led organization where we hope to build power, amplify our voices, and advocate for our rights. We're one of the largest immigrant and statewide organizations in the Southeast region. And I'm very excited to be here and to talk to you all today. So thank you so much, Anahita, and I'll pass it back off to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kosar and Dauda, for those great introductions. We can go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right, folks, so just a quick icebreaker for us. We want to pose a question to you. What does community organizing mean to you? And there's no right or wrong answer, but we just want to get a sense of the understanding that you have of community organizing. So if you can take a minute, put your thoughts down into the chat box, and then we're going to be using some of these that we learned throughout this workshop in our interactive conversations that we'll have throughout. So take a minute and answer the question, what does community organizing mean to you? All right, we have our first answer by Anne, developing relationships to take action on issues pertinent to the community. Very good. Thank you, Anne. Other folks, let's give it one more minute. All right, Doal, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. It means bringing community together for a unified cause for their lives. Absolutely. Great, I'm loving these answers. Okay, let's get a couple more. But in the meantime, we're actually going to get started. I see another one from Ahmad, bringing our surroundings together. Absolutely. And this is where my colleague Dauda is going to talk more about what organizing actually means within our communities. So Dauda, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Anahita. Yes, and all the answers that you guys are giving into the chat, we are very excited of all of those answers. And I just want to ask these quick questions again, in addition to what she already asked. Can anyone, we talked about power. Can anyone tell me what's the definition of power? Get off the mute and just say it. What's your definition of power?
I guess the ability to make change.
The ability to make change, definitely. That is a good one. Yeah. And so yes, power is the ability to make change. It's basically the ability to make things happen. Yeah, when someone in power, he has that ability to make change and make things happen. And he has the ultimate influence to get things done as well. So yes, and as we talked about it, but in my next presentation, we will focus more to dive deep on power. But power is the influence, it's the product of relationship. It's all about relationship. And I know when we talked about power, we only think about elected official, people in that position. You as individual, you have so much power in you. If you can make it happen to bring 2 or 3 people together, that itself is power you are bringing in when you build that relationship. And sometimes people act out their self-interest. It is good for you to act that way. At the same time, at the end of the day, let it be for the greater good as well. Now, always people say, what is the definition of the iron rule? Anyone tell us the definition of the iron rule? That's why they're on the screen. Never do for others what they can do for themselves. And when you want to consolidate power, you teach people and give them the skills to do what they wanted to do. And that's why we are here today. Next slide, please. Yeah, what an interesting way for us to delve to our next speaker. Just look at the picture that you see, the iceberg. And it's interesting to see it when you see 10% of the world, what do they see? You see the iceberg, you see the little tip on top? Most of the time, that's what people see. Just the tip. That's what people see. But look at the bottom. What do you see right there at the bottom? 80%, everything is right there. But when you look at the bottom as well, majority of those what happens, that is 10% that people never share. But you want that 80%. What is the best way to get that 80%? It's when you get to know people and you get to meet them. That is what we call the one-on-one relationship, how you build one-on-one relationship. So with that, I will pass it back to Anna here.
I think COSAR may be next.
Yes.
For the next slide.
No, thank you, Dota. So yeah, as you know, you've seen, I think the goal for organizing is to always, not just get to 10%, but trying to get that 80%. There's gonna always be that 10% that, people will never just share them, will never share about themselves. And so it's important to try to get as much as you can of that iceberg down below. And it's, as Dota said, as you do it, how to do it is through one-on-ones. One-on-ones are very important because building meaningful relationships is key to building power for a successful grassroots movement. One-on-one meetings are a great way to build your base, to get commitments from folks, and to strengthen the relationships. This is also an opportunity to learn about the people's experiences, their networks, and skills to open up a conversation about what role might be the best fit for them, whether it's in your organization, within your circle, whichever. And so there are, a few steps in, having a successful one-on-one. First and foremost, it's important to identify people who might be interested in your organization, or identify the person that you want to have a one-on-one with. You need to be strategic and be intentional about that. So, if you're, organizing, something for the Muslim community or something, it's important that the person that you're having a one-on-one with is from the Muslim community. Second, it's important to do some preparation. You need to prepare some questions, some guiding questions. It's important too, if you're setting up a one-on-one with someone, rather than it being spontaneous, that you also know some of the background of that person, like what's their country of origin, kind of have some sort of a good painting of, what that person is, so that can help you, I think, when you're having your one-on-one. And I guess some questions that, typically I would ask in a one-on-one, or, have kind of, when I'm preparing for one, is, I think, first and foremost, asking the person about, their background, like, how did they get here? The story of themselves. And then, asking them about, issues that are affecting their community. I think it's important that, as an organizer, the issues affecting those communities so that you can then identify, okay, how can we fix these issues? Third, are there any upcoming plans for your community? How, try to find ways that you can also plug in. It's important to plug into those communities and, show up for events and really, I think, be a part of that community, as best as you can. What are plans to better introduce, whether it's, your organization to that community? So it's important to, you identify, the services and, the stuff that you can offer as an organization or as an organizer, so that, the person's invested and that you can, do follow-ups afterwards. Where does, your community get their info, any divisive issues? And then are there any other leaders in the community that you can reach out to? So they're just some of the guiding questions that I typically ask in a one-on-one. And then after that, it's important that, when you're scheduling a one-on-one, that you set a time and location for the meeting and that you're intentional about that setting as well. You don't just want to meet someone randomly, at their workplace or somewhere inconvenient. It's important that, whether it's, at your, at a coffee shop or at, a restaurant, over dinner or over food, or, inviting them to your workplace and, making sure that, it's a very comfortable spot for them so that they can, so that they're able to share their, their stories and be able to be much more comfortable and vulnerable in that one-on-one setting. And then I think fourth, which is I think the most important, and I think the thing that you want to get out of a one-on-one meeting is follow-ups. It's important that you follow up with a person that you do have a one-on-one with, because if you're just going to have a meeting, once with one person, then it's like, how are they going to be invested in the work that you do, and how, and on their end, they're going to see that you're really not invested in, in them and their communities, because they're just doing one-on-one and you're, checking off a box. And so it's very important that, you follow up, you reach back out, you develop, that relationship with that person. And then I guess we can talk about some of the other steps. So important to, wait, sorry about it. So sorry about that. So it's important that, you introduce yourself, you are very welcoming. As I said before, asking them, who they are, getting their story yourself, providing the purpose of the meeting. So why are we meeting today? And then inviting them. So becoming, asking them to become members of your organization, whether, if your organization has a membership, apparatus, or making sure that they come to a meeting or that you go to their meetings. And then I think, as I said before, kind of the follow-ups. So what are next steps? You kind of create action items. You ask them, oh, can you do this for me? Or, hey, love this meeting that we had. Can I, count on you to come to an action that we're having or something? It's important that you have those next steps and that you either say it, in the one-on-one meeting or in the follow-up when you reach back out to them. And I guess now we can move on to a little one-on-one kind of activity where what I'll do is kind of act out with either, if anyone's comfortable, that'd be really great if I could just get one of the participants to be kind of the guinea pig. But what I'll do is I'll be the organizer, and then you'll be the community member that I'm talking to. And what I'll do is first I'll have one very I'll show one very bad interview, and I'd love to get people's feedback on that interview, and then I'll do a better one. And I know typically one-on-ones should last 30 to 45 minutes, not too short but not too long. If you're really trying to get information and have a really meaningful one-on-one. But since we're pressed for time and this is just a workshop, I'll try to do it as fast as I can, but hopefully try to get as many of I think the points and information that I can in the meantime. But is anyone willing to act out a one-on-one with me? Oh, and yes, I'm looking at the chat right now. One-on-ones are very challenging with COVID-19. It's been very hard for organizers. It's been hard for me as an organizer. I think they're luckily, been able to, do things virtually, but it's always great to try to do it in person. So if you're, I think as trying to find that kind of that right balance of being comfortable going out and having one-on-ones with, with folks, and making sure that, you not only you prioritize your health, but also understanding that, whether it's virtual or in person, that these conversations are still meaningful, and that they're still, that you can still have, so that you can still get kind of information from folks. But is anyone willing to, I guess, be kind of a guinea pig? If not, I guess Anahita or Dada can be, but was just wondering if was hoping to kind of extend the invitation to one of the participants.
All right, I'll do it.
All right. So, and that's Dada, right? I can't see you.
Oh, you can see me?
Oh, no, I can. I just changed my view. Okay, perfect. I guess right now we'll reenact the bad one, Dota. So folks, if y'all can just make sure to point out some of the flaws, and we'll do a little debrief afterwards. But hi Dota, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine, and you?
I'm good. My name is Kosad. I'm the multicultural organizer at the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. And I was hoping to, talk to you a little bit about, some of our work, and was hoping to, get you to come to one of our events.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah,
So
no, of course. So we're gonna be having a call to action at our congressperson's office, and we're hoping to have you come out and show out and just join us as we fight for federal immigration relief. And so I was hoping to, was wondering if I can get you to come, and, was wondering if you'd be available next week.
I think it will be difficult because I need to know more about what is going on.
Oh, I completely forgot. Wow. I forgot to tell you. Yeah, we're having, I guess, an action next week about, federal immigration relief, and we're trying to get as many community members as possible. And I know this is the first time that we've met, but I was just hoping that, you could come out and, come attend, this action. And we'd love to just have you be there. And if you know any other people, that'd be great.
Thank you for that. But I think that I'm busy within that time, and then maybe another day we'll make a time to attend, but for this time, no.
Okay, scene. Okay, so what was the issue there? Why couldn't Dota come to the action?
Oh, that was a bad one-on-one. I'm curious to hear what folks think.
Yes, I didn't ask him about himself. Like, I just came in swinging and was like, hey, can you come to my event? Story of self, I completely forgot about that. Like, I didn't build that connection first. I didn't ask him. All I wanted was, what Dota can provide to me, and not what I could provide to Dota. What else? Anything else?
You also didn't, Kosar, you didn't share anything much about your organization and give a little bit of context and background. So that would be helpful.
Didn't provide any background. Like, I just said there was going to be an action happening on federal immigration relief, and that was it. The call to action was too early. Yes.
Yeah,
when you do a call to action, it's important that you do the outreach weeks prior, not the week before.
Yeah, and this is strange. Like, someone just called me, and you don't try to introduce yourself and make that connection.
Yeah.
Get to know you, and you just straight and just give me a task to do. So I was like thinking, what is this? It's just a scam call comes my way.
Yeah.
So it makes me uncomfortable.
I really just came out swinging without really asking anything personal. So that was definitely a very bad one-on-one. And had it been a better one-on-one, Dota could have, probably said, yeah, I would love to be there, and would have felt included and more welcomed. But it looked very transactional, very one-way street, and so hence why that was a bad one-on-one. So I guess now I'll try to do a better one-on-one, and so and feel free to also, like, when I do this one-on-one, that if you still think that there's things missing, like, it's always great for, always need to improve my one-on-ones. I think everyone needs to. So feel free to also look out for maybe ways I can do better. So, Scene. Hi, Doda. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and you?
Good, good. Is this so I know I reached out to you a little prior, but I was hoping to, I guess, just talk to you more just to get to know you, and also talk to you about kind of our work, and also introduce myself as a multicultural organizer here in Tennessee. But I guess I'll first introduce myself and my organization. As I said, I think in the email, I'm the multicultural organizer at the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition. A lot of the work that I do is with Black immigrant, Black refugee communities, Middle Eastern API communities. We are a statewide organization that work with refugees and immigrant communities. We do a lot of advocacy work. We provide services ranging from legal services. We have English learning classes. We also do a lot of COVID vaccine work. And so that's just kind of a little spiel about kind of, our organization, what I do specifically, but I was hoping to kind of get to know you more and, who are you, how'd you get here? What's kind of, just a little brief introduction to kind of your story and your community.
Oh, thank you so much, Kosa. You guys are doing an amazing job over there, and I'm really inspired. And I realized that we have so much in common. And my name is Dawda Sise, originally from Sierra Leone, and I was settled in the US as a refugee. And then I co-founded a local organization, the Louisiana Organization for Refugees and Immigrants. And this organization objective and mission kind of similar to the work that you do over there, where we bring the immigrant community together and in order to build power and then encourages them to speak up for themselves and issues that are affecting their communities. We help them with legal aid. We help them as well with disaster response. And then we educate them on know your rights and language access. So I'm really excited that knowing that there is an organization over there as well doing the same thing. So thank you for reaching out.
I'm very, very excited. And I guess, yeah, like, I guess, how'd you get to this point? How'd you get to this organization? What kind of, got you interested in this? I'd love to kind of know more.
Oh, thank you. During 2016, and we all know what happened when everyone was talking about the immigrant community, the way they wanted to talk about it. And then I saw that people are talking about my story, my family story, and about my community, the way they didn't fit. So because of that, I stepped into the advocacy space in order to own the narrative and change the narratives. And that's how I began my community organizings and found the organization called the Louisiana Organization for Refugees and Immigrants, which is own the story locally, and then also get involved as the delegate for Refugee Congress in a national space in order to build and encourage other leaders nationally to get involved and own the story. And through that, we're able to put the refugee movement in a higher space ever been in the state of Louisiana. Every nook and corner you go to Louisiana, refugee rights movement is front and center. It only takes just the power of our story and power of organizing people, bring them together and get us to this point. Because one thing I believe that if you allow people to tell your story the way they want to say it, the way they want to tweak it, you're giving them so much power. So I refuse to give up power to those individuals and took that power back from them.
That's so inspiring and amazing to hear. Yeah, no, I would love to, I guess, yeah, obviously, find ways of, collaborating, and was hoping to also kind of get a good sense of kind of some of the issues kind of facing the communities that you work with, but also, your specific community, and, was wondering kind of, what needs are there, in what ways can, we be plugged in and maybe do some cross-state work. Yeah, I would love to kind of explore that a little bit more.
And that would be a great idea because like when we do cross education and cross between both organizations, what does that happen is form a coalition. It gives us more power because there is strength in numbers. So by doing that, I think that would be a great idea. And it inspire also the local here, knowing that, oh, a community organizing leader from all the way in another state is coming to Louisiana to give a talk and about the work that you do. That in itself is inspiring. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and I guess I was wondering, are there other kind of organizations or other leaders in the community that, I could reach out to, and also was hoping to also just be plugged in more into kind of some of the work in Louisiana. And so I was just kind of wondering if there are any other folks that I could also talk to.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I got your email, and I will definitely email you their name and contact that you can reach out to. And I do have other contacts across the United States as well that I will connect you with them as well.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. I know like we have to cut time short because we're both busy people, but I would love to also follow up again and really kind of get to even know you, not even talk about work stuff, but also get to know you personally, and also would love to kind of talk about some action items that we can start working on, and kind of brainstorm and do a little work plan on how best to collaborate between kind of our two organizations, and see in what ways we can, advocate for our communities here in the South. So I'll love to follow up, and we'll definitely be reaching out with the phone number that you provided. And I look forward to our next meeting.
Sure, I'm excited. So looking forward to that as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Scene. Okay, so what are our thoughts? What was better this time around than last time? And also, we can go to the next slide, I think, Andres. Yeah. What was different about this one-on-one?
I guess I'll jump in here. You genuinely sounded interested in getting to know Dauda, and not just for your own self-interest and benefit.
Yes, more rapport building. It was in a one-sided conversation. I didn't ask for one thing, and the fact that we that I was able to kind of get to know a little bit more about Dauda. It was like he wasn't even like in Tennessee. He's in Louisiana. Like I wouldn't have known that he was in Louisiana had I not asked more about his story. And so I think through that I was able to kind of pivot. And it's different. You can have different one-on-ones with different people, whether it's people within the community themselves or with people from other organizations, other organizers. And so Ahmed said, you definitely gone more in detail, and also a follow-up was given. Reciprocity between the two parties. The last one-on-one meetings became better because of the common activities you share together. And I guess didn't ask for him to join the action right away. Yes, I realized that it's the action is next week, and decided to I think first just build this relationship so that he can come to an action in the future. I guess what could I maybe done a little bit better, or any sort of other feedback? Provide him with links to your work. Yes. Anything else? We'll do a few more, and then maybe a couple, and then we'll move on. One more. One more thing.
I think one thing that was missing, I know, yes, you did everything great. Everything was great. The question, the follow-up. I think the only thing I was thinking you can ask again is, oh, do you guys have anything like ask if we have anything coming up that we might be need help of? Like it's like saying, give out an helping hand. That's okay. Hey, do you have anything coming up?
I like that. Like, yeah, like
Yes.
saying, well, is there any upcoming events or anything else that we could maybe be plugged into, or
Correct.
boost or share or something. Yeah, definitely. I guess being conscious of time, we'll move on, but I hope people kind of got a good sense of what a one-on-one looks like, and kind of what a bad one-on-one looks like, and we'll provide more information in our follow-ups. But thank you all so much, and I'll pass it off to Dodo.
Thank you so much. What an amazing one-on-one. What a very good segue that we can come into. Okay. As you can see in the one-on-one, it is, what are the things that you think is looking for when you host a one-on-one? It's two things. Which is you're looking for leadership. You can co-lead a project together. And as you can see from the summary, and you're looking out also for issues as well. Issues of similar interest, of kind interest. And if you can see, when we have the conversation, when it talks about issues, and you see how we all connect, it didn't come and put it to me like it's a challenge. It just mentioned what they are doing. And I realized that, okay, what you're doing and what I'm doing align together. And those are the things that you're looking for when you form a one-on-one. It's a space where you build relationship. Now, once you're done with the one-on-one, what you do next, you moved it on to what we call house meeting. What we call a house meeting, this is part of the action cycle, when the way he goes around. When you get those house meetings, and that is where you delve more into details on the issues at large that you're looking out for. That's where you delve more into details about those issues. And let's say, for instance, we are looking at the refugee resettlements, and we all see the inequality on the distribution of pathway to protections that is going on currently. We see what is happening in Ukraine, and we see what is happening at the border. Those are issues that you can rally on and have that conversation. If both of you connect within the same issues, then what you move on to the next step, which is basically the action step. Well, I call it the research action. You research the actions. And the research actions, it's going to be based on the issues as well. That means you need to be educated about the issues. You want to learn more why this is happening, whether if it's a racist or it has to do with everything. You have to know, you have to get the data, collect the stories, and when you do that research for the actions. And then it is an opportunity as well to begin the process to make things happen. And where you make things happen. And then once you get to that point, we got what we call, you move to the next phase, which is the civic academy. Both of them work together, the research action and civic academy. So in that place, that's where you want to consolidate the power. That's where you start building the leadership. Like what we do right now, we have in this training. You want to give that individual the tools that they need to move, the tools they need to advocate for the issues that you discuss on. Whatever priorities you guys have, you've prioritized at that moment. And that's when you get to it. So at each phase of that process that you're going through, one thing you're trying to get into, you want to make sure you get a direct action. Because when you empower the individuals, you give them the skills and the tools. Now you want to make sure that they're able to turn that power into, and to turn whatever training you give to them into actions. You want to lead them into direct actions. Now in the direct actions, now that's where the power mapping, and I believe that we have recordings that you can follow those training, how you do the power map, how you map your targets. Because in a direct action, you're trying to identify who is the target, who is the positions in position to make things happen. When we talked about power. And when you do this, you have to constantly evaluate. Like in step 2 and 3, the one-on-one, you evaluate yourself. Okay, hey, like what we did in the initial one-on-one, is it right? It's not right. We did an evaluation. Then you come back, you take the next approach. Now, if you do the research actions as well, and you know that you're missing some steps, take a step back, evaluate your progress, and begin back to the same cycle. Okay, I'm meeting with the same leaders, but I'm not moving to the next step. Now, look what you do wrong and take it back. Can I go to the next slide, please? Okay, so each of those steps, what you are trying to do in all of those cycles, you're trying to not just build in power, you want to consolidate that power. And I know initially we talked about power, ability to make things happen. Now, what are the two types of power do we have? And two types of power, which is organized people and organized money. What we are organized in people, and others organized money. I'll give you a typical example. Anyone know about what happens during the chicken plant raid in Mississippi? I think in Mississippi, when ICE raided the plant. What you guys think happened at that time? Anyone remember when it was in the news that it was one of the largest raids so far that happens, when almost close to 700 immigrants were that were working in the plants, in the chicken plant in Mississippi, were detained by ICE, picked up and detained. What happened within weeks after that? Anyone know what happens to those immigrant family, to those immigrants who are detained? Majority of them were released. If not all of them were released. Because you know why? It's two power plays, the organized people and the organized money. So what happens at that moment? The organized money, people that owns the plants, called the person in leadership, the president, and let them know that, hey, we're not getting workers, they're not coming to work. And if they don't work, we're not gonna get money. So they call and put pressure. That's what leads to their release. And the organized people, the plants and community around what? They demonstrate knowing that, okay, hey, other plants, we're not going to work because we see what happens. So the fear of losing the workforce and losing money make that happen. And we see also within our political leaders what is happening there as well. How they get controlled. They will come to us when it's time for election, but when they get there, what happened? They follow the interest with those people that lobbies with the big pockets. But we have the power to put them there, and we have the power to take them out of office if we organize, and it all begins with number one, with the one-on-one, and then in a house meeting, a small group, doing the one-on-one. When you identify them, it all begins with that. And then after that, and then you have to what? Consolidate your power and within an issue, a similar issue of the same interest. And once you get that issue, what? You begin what? The power building, the base building. And then once you build your base and you expand, the next step is what? You move to the actions. And one way is if you mobilize the same people all the time, what gonna happen to your power? Quick question. This is the last one before I turn it up to my colleague. If you organize the same people or you mobilize the same people all the time, you know what happens to your power over time? It diminishes because they're gonna lose interest. And that's why this is called the organizing cycle. It's a process that continue going. At any time you do this organizing, you look for new people, continue with your one-on-one, continue with your house meeting, building your base, getting new people on board and mixing. By that way doing, you continue to hold on to that power. But if you keep the same people over and over, and that's what you don't want to get to, over time you diminish your power. So with that, I will pass it back on to Anahira. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you so much, Dauda, and thank you so much, Kosar. Wonderful. It's always nice getting a refresher. So I know we have about 12 minutes, so I'm going to try to speed through, but make sure that you're able to retain some of this information as far as qualities of a leader. So I'm going to ask if you could all describe what words that you think describe a leader into the chat box. And so I can give an example of a word that I think describes a leader, and what comes to mind when I think of a leader is someone who is reliable. Right? We want to make sure that the individual who's leading this community is reliable and that they could be able to provide support for the community. So please feel free to put some ideas, some words that describe the idea of a leader. And I see some great ones coming in. Integrity, absolutely. Someone who has followers, passionate, trustworthy, good listener. Awesome. Keep them coming. Next slide, please. All right. So what defines a leader? There's variations of leaders in our communities, and we're going to go through a few of them and also trying to see what we identify with ourselves. So the broad definition of what a leader is someone who is able to influence others through actions that are valued and recognized for what motivates and drives them to perform certain actions. It is the ability to identify and search for common goals within your community, right? So when we talk about organizing, a lot of it is bringing self-interest from community members in identifying that common goal and being able to turn that into action, as Dauda took us through. So really being able to influence other individual groups of peoples. I see some more coming in. Brave, bright, calm, charming. These are really great. Next slide, please. All right, so there are, believe it or not, different types of leaders, right? And I want to briefly go over what they might be familiar to you, they may not, but some terms that you may be familiar with in different in countries and regions. By that, I'm talking about democratic leaders, right? So we're very familiar with democracy, right? And what a democratic leader presents, and that is someone who shares power. Someone who serves the group, shares information and thinks thoroughly with the group, right? Ensuring there's democracy within the group, democracy within the community work that is happening. We have another type of leader, which is the paternalistic leader. This is sort of like the cult personality, someone who has loyal followers, no matter their mission, or their goals. And I think we've all seen individuals who are paternalistic leaders, right? The next one we have is authoritarian leaders. So some folks may be familiar with the term authoritarian because you may come from an authoritarian regime, or you may know someone that comes from an authoritarian dictatorship, right? These are individuals who take all the power, who want to control all the information and make all the decisions for the group without consulting with the community members' needs and what they think should happen. So these are, individuals that want to take all the power and make all the decisions. The last one we have are permissive leaders. This is more of a hands-off approach that can sometimes lead into no accountability. And by that, we mean leaders provide the training and support to the community members and allow the members to make decisions, but there might not be the accountability at the end of the day when it comes to that leader. Next slide, please. So we talked about these 4 different dynamics and then delving a little bit deeper into the styles of leadership. And everyone has a different type of leading. So I'm just gonna scroll through these really quickly for the sake of time. And I want us to think of what type of leader that you identify with. The first one is a heart and head leader. This is someone who has a lot of love for the group. works great with people, very enthusiastic, is super creative, and takes initiative. I'm sure we know many folks like that. We have a heart leader. This is someone who is passionate, who makes sacrifices for its mission. And I'm sure in the space that we work in, we're surrounded by heart leaders. Motivated leaders are leaders who complete tasks at hand, and sometimes without necessarily achieving the end goal. So that's something to take in consideration. The fourth one is a clockwork leader. This is someone who needs to be a little nudged, motivated, can stay motivated, and may be hardworking for hours at a time. Fifth one is the friction leader. This individual works when they're pushed to act. And sometimes you need a little bit of a nudge, and they're ready to go once they get that motivation. So something that you'll see is common within a lot of these leadership styles is motivation. The last one is a rock leader. It's a rock leader because this individual sort of stays where they're placed or where they're told to be, and typically does not move or initiate different projects or activities. So thinking of someone who's told to hold up a sign at a press conference and stays there the whole time, right? This is just a visual sort of explanation of what a rock leader could actually be. Now, I know I zoomed by these, but I just wanted us to look at some of the different leadership styles that we have. There are none that are right or wrong, right? These are different styles, and maybe taking into consideration for a minute what sort of leadership style that you identify with. And putting that into the chat box. I, for one, think that I maybe lead a little bit more with my heart, and then sometimes with my head. I'm trying to have a balance, but I think it's interesting for us to kind of dive deeper in seeing what sort of leadership style that we identify with. All right, folks, next slide. And our belief is that everyone is a leader. The most important thing is that you believe that you're a leader. For one, before we dive into organizing our communities, is making sure that you yourself believe that you're a leader before anyone else. Next slide. All right, folks, so I know we're pressed for time, but I really want to share this amazing case study of community organizing in Southeast Rwanda. And hopefully we can get through it. This will be shared afterwards. But this is an amazing case study of what community organizing can actually achieve when you organize your communities. So next slide. So the issue at hand in this small region of Kirehe, Southeast Rwanda, was that there were some healthcare issues. And how they identified that was by bringing a bunch of community members together and deciding to meet with over 2,000 residents to discuss some of the issues that they have in their community. And they identified healthcare as the #1 issue in their community. And so they decided that they needed a pharmacy to be able to access basic medicine and healthcare services because the nearest one was over 20 miles away. And that's a long ways for individuals that may not have the best transportation services. And as a result of not having a pharmacy, many folks had died and suffered. Next slide. So after coming together with over 2,000 individuals of one-on-one conversations and identifying the issue of not having a pharmacy, they set out to demand the local mayor and the Ministry of Health to build a pharmacy. They declined. They said it would be too much labor and too much money, and so they refused to do so. Next slide. So they organized women from 6 neighboring villages and cleared the land. Next slide. And dug up the area for a foundation. Next slide. Next, they gathered as many people from the neighboring villages. They organized themselves and walked 600 tons worth of stones for miles to the site. I mean, can you imagine that? They broke the stones and built the foundation. Next slide. And this is truly what was so inspiring, is that then the local government took the necessary steps to move forward with the pharmacy project. Today in the city of Karihi, Southeast Rwanda, they now have a pharmacy which provides the basic medicine and healthcare services that is much needed to their residents. And once the pharmacy was built, they were able to begin focusing on other issues that were facing the community. And I apologizing for speeding through, but I just wanted us to really hear this inspiring story, this real life experience of community organizing and how they were able to achieve a big win for the community to access healthcare and medicine. Thank you. I will stop here and pass it over to Kosar for some next steps.
No, thank you so much, Anahita, for sharing that story. Wow, just truly shows kind of the power of organizing. For next steps, we will have several workshops in the near future. In advance of Refugee Council USA, aka RCUSA's annual National Advocacy Days, which for this year I think will be held virtual from May 9th to the 13th. We're producing a virtual training series designed by refugees and immigrants for refugees and immigrants. To better prepare for these advocacy days, we would like to offer free leadership development and advocacy workshops to anyone with a refugee immigrant background. The first workshop ahead of the advocacy days will be on best practices meeting with elected officials, which will be next Thursday, April 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can find the link to register, I believe, in the chat. I think Andres might be putting it in the chat. And then I guess our next workshop from Opportunity for All is in organizing your own World Refugee Day event through an advocacy lens on May 19th, and then followed by a workshop on how to engage elected officials and best advocacy practices on July 21st, and so on. We would love to have all of you all present here today to take advantage of these opportunities going forward. And lastly, if you're interested in the work that we do at Opportunity for All, we would love to have you. As we said before, Opportunity for All campaign has provided many opportunities for refugee and immigrant leaders, and we hope you can join our table and contribute to the decision-making process in the We Are All America National Network. I believe our next Opportunity for All table meeting will be May 4th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And you can join our table by filling out the individual membership form application, which I think will be, which I think you can see on the graphic, but also we'll be providing in the chat as well. And once you do, we will follow up to ensure that you can make it to our meetings. And last slide. I know we're pressed for time, but we're just gonna get a temperature check. How's everyone feeling? Do folks have questions or feedback on this training? What would you have liked to see better? Feel free to share it in the chat, or if you feel free to also unmute if you want. But yeah, I'll give maybe a minute or two for that, if that's okay with people. Thank you, Rosie, for coming. Any questions or any feedback? Any thoughts about this training? Thank you, Smita. Thank you, Dawal. Yeah, no, thank you all so much for being here and joining us this evening on a Friday evening. Of all, I mean, for me, it's Friday evening. But we can hope you can take some of the things that you learned today from the workshops as you begin organizing within your communities, and look forward to having you all at the next workshop. In the meantime, have a great night and look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you so much.
It may not be, this is Ann, can I say something? Okay, it may not be appropriate, and I don't like it when other people take over the agenda, but I live